Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
And please welcome our special guest today. He dropped a bomb in the WWF in the mid-90s, and he tore up WCW all throughout the 2000, 2001 as one half of Kronik. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Bryan Clark. Bryan, how you doing?
Good, Patrick. How's it going?
Going great, going great. First question I have for you is, what have you been up to since, because we really haven't seen you in the mainstream wrestling scene in quite a while.
When we finished up 2002 in Japan, we'd won the titles over there, and it was that time as far as my career goes, time to wind it down. Almost 12 years in the business, and just time to basically call it a day and move on. And so I've moved out to Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been out here, let's say, about 5 years, and just enjoying life.
How do you enjoy desert dwelling?
Well, you know what? It took a little bit getting used to with the summer. But of course the winter is worth it. So, and it's good on old injuries. So
it really is. It's a nice place to live. You can deal with the heat, and then you never have to deal. I'm just a stupid kid who did little backyard things, and here and there I get some aches and pains. I can't imagine what it is for a pro. But the winters are surprisingly mild, so it's really nice around here. I'm glad to have you in the area. I'm surprised to hear it. So let me ask you this question. We're going to get started. And a few months ago, I was flipping through the channels, and I happened to see you walking towards the ring on a show called ESPN Classic Presents the UWF. And I said, that's Bryan Clark. I didn't ever see you as the Night Stalker.
Oh, that had to be horrible.
It wasn't that bad.
Oh, it had to be. Oh, man, that was, I was still in college at Central Missouri State playing college football. And I just got basically introduced to the business, had not been trained, nothing, basically just sort of thrown out there. So, yeah, that was at the very beginning.
Oh, well. So where did the idea come from? Because it sounds like a very, rock and roll name. Where did the idea to call yourself the Night Stalker come from?
You may be familiar with it or not. There was an old television series, probably the 70s, late 70s, as I was growing up as a kid, called The Night Stalker. And I sort of ripped it off from that just because I thought it was a cool sort of spooky name, So that's where I got it from.
Now, you took that name with you all the way through Smoky Mountain, right?
Exactly. And I did that on purpose just because when I first started with it, it was, just some of the matches were horrible. I hadn't been trained. I just sort of went out there and fell on my face. And I wanted to prove a point that, I could bounce back from that. As soon as I moved to Atlanta and took the initiative to learn how to work, going there and train on an invite from Jody Hamilton, and he trained me there. And then I finally got another invite to work for Jim Cornette in Smoky Mountain. So I wanted to prove that I wasn't just another big football player or power lifter or that just couldn't make it. So I had to prove a point to myself and to everybody else that I could work and I could do it. And I did.
Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that UWF days, because there's some of the pros really, dismiss it as this, that, the other thing, and you mentioned you were still even in college at the time. What did you guys, how was that presented to you guys backstage? Did you guys see it as big time, or was it just like a show that just happened to have a TV show?
Well, like I said, it was at the very end. Now, you're speaking of AWA Vern Gagne's deal, right?
I was actually speaking of Herb Abrams UWF. You even remember that?
I don't even remember that.
It was there you go. It was very small time. It was around, I guess it was on ESPN at one time because they wouldn't show it otherwise.
Yeah, I remember the name and everything, but for some reason I don't remember working for him. I remember almost working for him, and he had a lot of shows lined up, and then some things fell through. So
well,
I'm not saying I didn't work for him. I just can't recall.
Well, if you have any fond memories of him, let me tell you that he apparently was found dead, beating up furniture while naked, high on cocaine. So
I read that story. So yes, I did hear that.
Wow.
He's an interesting fella.
Going back to the Night Stalker gimmick, it's interesting that you mentioned that it was based off a show in the 70s, because I felt like the Adam Bomb gimmick may have been based off like a comic book character or maybe an old 50s sci-fi movie or something, and obviously Wrath was clearly based off something like Mortal Kombat. So did you come up with all those gimmicks where you just felt like you saw something on TV and you're like, you know what, this would be really cool. I think the fans would really attach to this. Were all those gimmicks your idea, or who came out with those?
Some, I put a lot of my spin on a lot of stuff. As far as the Adam Bomb thing, that was, Vince and WWF gimmick. Originally, I told somebody else, I just did an interview a week or so ago, and I was telling them that the original gimmick that was pitched to me was the Ringmaster.
Oh wow!
Which was Stone Cold.
Yes, that's what Steve Austin is.
Yeah, so it didn't work for him either. He didn't like it, and I definitely didn't like it. And so the other option was Adam Bomb, and so we went that direction. So yeah, that was their deal. But as far as like the contact lens and the red tongue and all the other, all the other things, I suggested and put those all that stuff into their eyes, pitched to Vince as far as, and even the merchandise and stuff. I went and pitched that to them, and they went for it.
Yeah, I mean, I love those opening vignettes. I mean, there was no kid that wasn't freaked out by the whole 3 Mile Island thing.
Yeah,
that worked, and then it worked later on as a. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, I still have my old Adam Bomb T-shirt stashed away here somewhere. I wish I could find it.
See, hey, you know what? That whole design with the bomb and everything, I did all that.
Really?
So, exactly, yeah.
Now, Vince had to like something like that.
Well, yeah, at the time, no one, it didn't seem like any of the workers were coming up with, there's some of the merchandise was lame, and I was like, so I went to an advertising agency there in Atlanta, and I was like, hey, I want this done, I want this, I want to lay it like this, and boom, we took it into him, he popped it, And,
very cool.
Got it out there right away, so yeah.
It seemed like they kind of pushed you as a babyface and pushed you as a heel, and then it kind of, I'm sorry to say, but it kind of seemed like it was kind of the story of your career where you were just catching on, and then they did something that seemed kind of weird, and then they started catching on again. Did you ever feel like you were kind of not getting?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that's like with my partner Bryan. We talked about it, and he had a lot of the same thing. I was dealing with the Clique, having to put up with Shawn Michaels bullshit, and Nash, and Hall, and X-Pac and that crew.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of had the company by the balls, so to speak. Unfortunately, and it was a bad time. Vince had made all these promises. Hey, we're gonna. You just stick, this was along the time of the steroid trial. He's like, hey, stick by me. You guys will, pay off in the end kind of thing. So, I mean, I left there. They didn't leave me. I left them. Basically, I was supposed to be a show and just didn't show up. And I was just like, screw it, man. You lied to me one too many times.
Now,
yeah, it's, it was, politics and everything. But there were some good times, later on in the career, too.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, unfortunately, I do think a lot of people remember Adam Bomb more than the Wrath stuff, but I think some of your better matches actually came under Wrath.
I totally agree. I wasn't afraid to fly, and I was one of the big guys at 290 pounds that would go off the top rope every night and do the flips off the apron and do all the crazy stuff and diving through the ropes and working and taking bumps and giving bumps and doing it all. I wasn't afraid to do that, whereas a lot of guys, they were afraid to leave their feet or take a certain bump, and I wasn't. And, the Wrath thing I was loving that, absolutely.
Now, when you came in, there was the whole blood runs cold and glacier and all that, and
horrible.
Yeah. See, I have this theory, and tell me if I'm wrong, and I've never actually pitched this on the air before. I have this theory that was the original idea for Goldberg, that Glacier was supposed to be the one to catch on like Goldberg did.
No.
No?
Not at all. Matter of fact, Goldberg's, Eric Bischoff's original name for Goldberg was Brick.
Brick?
Yeah. I don't know if too people know that, but Brick. Yeah, like concrete.
Oh, my God.
Concrete.
It would have fit his body type, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank God they didn't go with it, though. I don't think that would have done as well.
Can't really chant that.
Brick,
Yeah, exactly.
brick. I don't know. It doesn't really work, does it?
Goldberg thing.
Well, they kind of started pushing you after they got away from the whole Mortal Kombat thing with James Vanderberg, actually, let me go there first. What did you think of having a manager like James Vanderberg? I know you had Harvey Whippleman and I believe Scotty Polo, which was Raven.
Right.
How did you like having John James Vanderberg as your mouthpiece?
You know what? You know, he can talk real well and does a good job at his gimmick and stuff. But for me, I just felt like I never needed it. I just think that the whole, you know, the evil kind of thing with Mortis and Wrath, as soon as it, you know, it waited so long to debut that it was almost too long, and then it sort of fizzled. And then I finally met with Bischoff, said, "Let me do this thing my way. I'll keep the Wrath name," and it worked. You know, once again, I just, you know, let me put my spin on it, and it'll work, and it did. So it was, you know, I really didn't need Vanderberg or Canyon, especially. Just I had to get away from that.
How did you get along with Canyon?
You know what? I got along with him. You know, good worker, but the guy was just very mentally unstable. You know, I mean, I never travel with him or anything. You know, I usually travel with other people. But, you know, he just a loose cannon as far as, you know, this was all before he came out of the closet.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing. But he was, him and Vanderberg would fight like two old women. It was just amazing. I mean, times where he'd, you know, pull off the side of the road and take a baseball bat and bash out his tail lights and just crazy shit. You know, I just said, man, I don't want to be around this at all. You know, I was taking a different approach to the business.
What do you think of this personally? This was my opinion, and I've actually gotten into some heated debates with people. I don't really care that he came out of the closet. To me, it doesn't matter to me.
Right. I didn't care either. It had no issue. You know, whatever he did in his personal life, God was a good worker. I just still think it sort of haunted him somehow. You know, and Chris, you know, he had the lisp. You know,
yeah.
Speaking and stuff, and it just didn't go over well on TV. I don't think he just had a lot of problems with it.
You know, it's funny. I actually thought that the whole thing with him coming out of the closet, I thought that was a work.
No.
I can believe it. I had heard rumors previously before it happened, so yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Again,
it has no bearing on his work rate or anything. Good worker, and you know, just one of those guys that, you know, I don't think they really had plans for him, at least.
No.
At least big plans.
Yeah. They kind of used, I don't want to say the Goldberg blueprint for you, but when Wrath started really catching on, I mean, that meltdown move was catching on almost as much as the jackhammer at one time. And
yeah, see, and the whole meltdown, that was all mine. I came up with that. It had never been done. There was a sort of a version of a pump handle, but they would just dump the guy on his back. I was the first one to ever bring him up to the full spin all the way onto my shoulders and then tuck it into a slam.
Yeah, and snap him over, which was really
exactly. And you're right, it did catch on, man. I could feel it every Monday wherever I was at, man. They, as soon as I hooked the guy, they would start popping, you know.
Mm-hmm. And
so yeah, you're right. They did the same thing, and they were building me towards Goldberg.
It seemed like they were, and then
they were.
Maybe it was weird to me, but I think it was the night after World War III.
Yeah.
They had you do this like inexplicable match with Nash, and it was like, what the hell?
He cried and had to have the belt because he beat me and then he beat Goldberg. The thing was, I've got to beat two undefeated guys. So he beat me and then he beat Bill, and you know he killed off my steam, but he also killed off Bill's steam, and then he also killed off the angle for me going to work against Goldberg. So again, you know, the self-serving. You know, that's just the big goof just trying to get his way, you know, and he did, unfortunately.
Well, this has become a common thing when talking about WCW, but just how bad was it backstage with the whole political warfare and everybody jockeying for a position and everything?
You know, it was like that, but again, you know, it was like that in New York too. So, of course, there was some dead weight they should have cut. They should have pushed a lot of people. You know, I always said that they should have put the belt on Scott Steiner and pushed him and Goldberg and those guys when they were ready, instead of keeping it on Hogan and keeping Flair around these guys that should have been cut loose or moved them to a different spot. Right. Whereas Steiner was ready to run with it, and they could have made him easily, you know, the top dog. There were other people too that they could have done that with. But they kept a lot of that, I think, dead weight. But I mean, they were just basically walking out cutting promos instead of working, you know?
Yeah, and that was kind of, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they hold some kind of meeting? I'm not sure if you were there, but I think it was when Raven walked out. They held a meeting, and they basically said, these are our top 10. And it was pretty much the same top 10 that there was 3-4 years before that. And isn't that why some of the guys, some of the younger talent, like at the time Raven and people started getting really restless and either leaving the company or starting to wonder if this was where they needed to be?
You know what? I don't recall that meeting, but I'm not saying it didn't happen either. You know?
Well, speaking of Raven, he was actually your manager at one point as Johnny Polo. Did you ever think he'd make the transition from manager to wrestler so well?
You know, he was always a wrestler before. It's just that I think they were just trying to think of a way to get him in the company. But you know, I don't know. He was always real weird and goofy anyway. So
not really.
You know, I mean, just the guy. I was telling somebody else this the other day that when we first, I was just like, man, this is not good news for me to be associated with him because I just heard about him. You know, and sure enough, man, the first day flying up to New York for our job, he's all screwed up and shows up late and reeking of booze and barely makes the plane. You know, so yeah, you know, I'm surprised he's still around. That's all I can say.
So he wasn't exactly your personality type.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, not when you're first, you're first getting up there and you're trying to make an impression and, get things up and running. I'd say no.
Now, we were talking a little bit about how you kind of fizzled after the whole Nash match, and then there was another one with Bam Bam, which kind of just seemed to me like, what the?
Man, I was feeling the same way. Trust me. And he was, he came back. He was a big fat, just a big. We always had heat, so I just thought he was a big fat piece of shit. And I'm just going to put it out there. I don't care. And then he knows. I felt that way too, and he felt the same way. So whatever. But he came. They had been off for a while and came back, and then a whole match. I'm sitting there just, trying to get his fat ass up to move to do the next spot, and just he blew up, and he was just out of shape, and they still put him over and stuff. And that happened a couple occasions on people that were just not fit to work, and he was one of those people, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to take a step back. How about, I remember there was a match at WrestleMania 10, which I was in attendance for, and it just seemed kind of like, it was kind of a weird match with you and Earthquake because it was so short.
Yeah, that's we just did a 10-day loop in Europe, coming back, and as big as he was, it wasn't, for me at least, it wasn't that easy to get a good match out of him, because I was doing all the high flying and moving and, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a really good match laid out, but, I guess time permitted, and they just said, hey, we'll get it on and just a squash, and that's what it was. And after that, that was time for me to go to where I wanted to be anyway.
There's a story from WrestleMania 10 where apparently the ladder match from that show, which was Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, took up a lot more time than it was supposed to. Is that what happened? And that's why
that's what I was told. Yeah, that's what I was told. But if that was the case, they could have just scratched the match. But I got paid, so be it.
Let me ask you this. This is kind of one of those urban legend wrestling stories. Apparently, Macho Man got really ticked off with Savage that night because of them taking up more time knowingly.
And you just said Macho Man got ticked off with Savage.
Oh, oops! Sorry about that.
He probably does.
I can picture Macho Man arguing with himself.
Oh yeah, I did. That's true.
I met with Michael, so sorry about that, and was kind of chasing him around backstage. Any truth to that, or is that just one of those things where people just want to picture it?
You know what? I don't know if he chased him around. I could see him getting pissed off at Shawn Michaels because he pissed pretty much everybody off, and that's another guy that is a fucking joke, in my opinion.
So do you believe he's a reborn Christian?
Absolutely not. Give me a break, man. And and the rib was on him because he married the one of the Nitro sluts. So that's what's so funny. It's like she was she was down in Atlanta as one of the Nitro girls,
right?
And made her way through the company, and then he goes and marries this girl. So yeah, I could just sit here and check off her list as who where she's been, and and that's just hilarious to me.
Ooh,
but,
yeah.
He thinks. I'm sure he thinks that's his little angel. So so be it.
Yeah.
I said all the bad shit he did to people and stuff. And now all of a sudden, a Christian and everything's okay. Yeah, I'm not buying it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
So basically, from what Scott Steiner said about the Nitro Girls, you tend to agree that they were just a bunch of, coked up strippers from Atlanta?
Well, Atlanta and wherever else they come, and that goes, you got Kimberly Page, who, same thing with, she's working her way around too, so, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man, I got some story. Wait till the book comes out.
I can't wait to hear this one. So this book, you mentioned the book. So what's going on with this book? What are we going to hear? What are we going to hear with this thing?
I'm about, I would say, 3/4 of the way done with it, I want to just take my time and get it right, but I've been working on it for almost, I'd say a little less than a year. Just taking my time and getting it right. But I'm not trying to get a job in the business. I'm not trying to, write the book so that it's politically correct and makes Vince happy and everybody else happy. It's not going to do that. So, I don't really care. I just want to do it and let people know what happened and how it happened and some of the reasons why things happened. And, an inside look at the business, instead of, I see a lot of books, and I read a few that have been published that, they tell their story, but it's like they're still trying to, I really want to go back there and get a job or whatever. And it's not really laying it out there.
Right.
I'm not going to be afraid to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, one thing I always wanted to know about was when you came back to the WWF for the WCW invasion with Kronik and everything, one of the few dream matches that they actually gave us during the invasion was you and Bryan Adams versus The Undertaker and Kane. I was like, oh, man, that'll be a great match. But they never really did anything with you after that. What exactly happened there?
You know what? That was another bad thing. When WCW went out of business, Bryan and I had already won the titles twice, and I was really wanting to go to Japan. I was thinking that's where we need to go. And Bryan had a real good connection with Muda over there in All Japan. And we did eventually go and won the titles and really good success over there. But we made that stop in New York, because I had left on bad terms and at my choosing. And Bryan and Taker were pretty tight friends. And so they got us in there. I just think the timing was bad. I'd just been in a car wreck about 2 weeks prior to and had nerve damage. I got a herniated disc in my neck. And I had left my left side basically with my tricep, my chest, had basically dropped and lost feeling in it. And then, of course, Kane was just coming back from a staph infection in his arm. So the match really sucked. We had 2 house shows against 2 other people. And you got to remember, Bryan and I had been out of work out of work. We've been working out and training, but not ring training, for about a year. And then again, Kane had been off for a few months, and next thing you know, hey, we're in a pay-per-view. And it's like, well, how about let's try to build this thing up? And so it was designed to fail from the beginning, and then the match, sucked. And so, but, again, I signed a 1-year deal with them, and there was a guarantee. And so after that, it was pretty much over, and we went to Japan after that, which is what I wanted to do anyway.
Now, they mentioned, there's an urban legend, one of those rumors, here we go with another one, about you guys, right after that match, apparently somebody said that you guys should go to OVW and retool your skills or something, and you guys refused. Is there any truth to that, or is that all BS rumor?
I refused to go. I wasn't going to go. Like I said, I worked the match with an injury. I knew I could work, and I'd been working, and my skills were good enough. As far as that match, hey, maybe they weren't. But if you look at the match and you look at it, timing was bad on some on Bryan's part, maybe a little bit on mine. But the whole, like I said, it was one of those things where it was the whole situation. It wasn't, we need to go back and do this. What we really needed, if they wanted it to work, they needed to put us on house shows for a couple of weeks, let us knock the ring rust off, and then work the pay-per-view. That's what they needed to do. But instead, their answer was that, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And Bryan must have had a different deal because he went, but not me. I had, I was a guarantee, and I was going to get paid and not go, so it didn't help me to go. So fuck, I wasn't going to go. And especially then, I was ready to knock Jim Ross's teeth down his throat, and Bryan had talked me out of that. Here I am wanting to beat up on an old cripple guy, but he just pissed me off so bad, man. I can't stand the guy, and I was just like, wow. I was ready to give him a slobber knocker, So What a jackass that guy is. You know?
Dude, I got to tell you this. I had no idea what to expect from you going into the interview, but I like you. You're freaking funny.
Hey, man, I just sort of tell it like it is. You know, like I said, I'm not trying to get a job back with Vince. I've got a good career. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And, you know, so like I said, I'm just looking forward to the next day, you know.
Well, what is the next day? What are you doing these days?
Let's say that I am in the gaming business, and I'll just leave it at that.
The gaming business?
The gaming business. Yeah, you're out in the Arizona Scottsdale area, so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'll just leave it.
I think you might be the guy to do it with, to bring it back with. And I think Patrick would agree. How about some word associations, Pat? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, let's have some fun with this.
All righty. Let's do some word associations. How about, who should we start with?
How about Ric Flair?
Ric Flair. Should have retired 15 years ago.
All right. How about Hulk?
Hey, he's not a bad guy from what I've been around him, but I just think he stayed around way too long.
Overstayed his welcome, you think?
Yes.
How about Hulk Hogan?
Same thing with him. Nice guy. Like him. Always got along with him real well. But again, he should have passed the torch.
Learn when to step away, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. There's quite a few. How about Macho Man?
I always liked Macho Man. Even as he got older, I still think he had his skills. Great talker. Good look, good charisma. Good guy.
Diamond Dallas Page?
Oh, man. The guy would step over his wife and mom's grave to give himself a push. Give me a fucking break, man. What a joke. Yeah.
So were you there when apparently Steiner beat the crap out of him?
Oh, I was loving it, man. I fucking give Scotty the high five. I was like, fuck yeah, you kicked his ass. It was awesome, man. Roanoke, Virginia. I'll never forget it, man. It was great. Scotty was a fucking kill him, man.
I think it was Daphne.
He was sort of, him and Eric's tight, and he was Eric's boy or whatever. But man, Scotty was just, it was awesome.
How about Bill Goldberg?
Got along great with Bill. Enjoyed working with Bill. Good guy in and out of the ring. Man, got over real fast in no time. Good charisma, good look. Always got along with Bill. He was always professional with me and Bryan, and then even me as a single. Good guy.
How about Ernest the Cat Miller?
Oh, man. Fred Sanford. The dude is funny, man. It's funny because when he first started training, I down the power plant, I was working with him, shot him and gave him a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker and broke his ribs.
Oh,
funny shit. It wasn't funny to him, but yeah, good guy, man. He was funny. I like the Cat.
Glacier?
Oh, man. Super nice guy, just in the wrong business.
In the wrong business. What do you think he would have excelled at?
High school teacher.
High school teacher. Didn't they actually...
That's what he does.
That's what he does now, right?
Yeah. I mean, he just, man, he didn't have the killer instinct to be in this business and really just watch out for himself. He didn't have that.
Ken, how about The Undertaker?
You know what? I always got along with Mark. I worked him so many times in New York. I mean, I can't think how many casket matches I had with him on different shows all over. I went to Europe like 15, 16 times and always working him in Europe and all over the world. But I always got along with him.
How about somebody who really wasn't a part of the clique but was associated with it, and somebody who we're unfortunately not that close of friends with? How about Marty Jannetty?
Marty Jannetty. Always got along with Marty. I don't really have anything to say about him other than, Marty was a party guy.
And this is kind of more of a fun one for us.
Hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to plug this thing in.
Sure.
All right, go ahead. I didn't want this to die on me. Go ahead.
Sure. Let me ask you more of a fun one. You mentioned he was more of a party guy. Well, let's have somebody more as a rib guy. I'm not sure if you were around him enough to have experienced it, but how about Kurt Hennig?
Oh, yes. Absolutely, yeah. Great guy, funny. I mean, always effing with people and pulling ribs and stuff. But yeah, I like Kurt a lot. I traveled with him some.
Now, was there anybody that you? Well, let's see. Who was your best friend in the business? Would it be Bryan Clark? Bryan Adams, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was your best friend.
Yeah, you know, and I've traveled when I was in New York. I traveled with, you know, Billy Gunn and Bob Holly, and I traveled with a lot of different people, but definitely Bryan. Once we, you know, because I was a little bit of a lone wolf a lot, you know, which is okay with me. I like it that way. But with Bryan, man, it was absolutely. Once we got paired up, man, there was no separating us.
And we kind of touched over it a little bit more than that, but how did Kronik, you guys end up actually just gravitating towards each other and ended up being the tag team? Because I know he was the demon, and Wrath had kind of fizzled out because of the jobs that they unfortunately made you do. How did that end up gravitating? Well,
I'd been out with I'd say towards the end of the Wrath thing, I'd written my knee and been out for about 9 months with ACL reconstruction. Got that repaired and was getting ready to come back. And Bryan called me. He was like, hey, I heard you're getting ready to come back. And I think this was around the Russo time. And he said, I talked to him. And, you know, what do you think about tagging up? And I was just like, you know, because I had a real good, you know, the Wrath thing was working. And I wanted to give that another shot. But he talked me into it, I guess. I think talked me into it. I agreed to it. And so that's what we did. And, man, the first time we went out there, and every night after that, man, it was just, the chemistry was there. And everything we did, it just seemed like it clicked, man, automatically with him. And as I got to know Bryan, we had so many, similarities. I mean, our backgrounds were, I mean, I was cop in the Air Force. He was a load master in the Air Force for 4 years. He was a powerlifting champion in Japan, and I was the same thing in the U.S. and college football. And we were both 6'6", both named Bryan, you know, just went on and on, you know. But it clicked, man. I tell you, it was great. I wish that I would have. And he, you know, he told me the same thing many times that wish we would have done it, you know, 5 or 10 years earlier.
So do you think
I'll say this with all the negativity that WCW gets, I will say this: Kronik was one of the best things that they had going towards the end there.
Yeah, and we sort of felt that way too. I mean, we could go out there and get a pop when most people were not. I mean, we did a lot of big man power moves and stuff, and we'd work with the cruiserweights and throw them all up in the air and sling them around. And we worked with the big guys or whatever, but, you know, it definitely worked. They did a couple things to try to slow it down, but you know, they put the belts on us twice, and that got over and stuff. So it was fun. Absolutely. That was a good, that and the Smoky Mountain time. But tagging with Bryan was probably absolutely the best time of my career.
Now, let me ask you, there was a match that you guys had on a Nitro, and it seemed like there was some insider shots being taken by a guest commentator named Conan.
Oh, yeah, what a piece of shit.
Oh, please, you got to go after Carlos for us, please. I hate the guy.
Yeah, he's a complete asshole. And as a matter of fact, it was amazing because Bryan and I had left the show, and, you know, that's back when Nitro would replay.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And we're about, 30, 40 minutes out away from the building, leaving town. And Bryan's wife calls him and tells him what all he's saying. I had to beg and plead Bryan not to go back to the building, and he was going to fucking knock him out, man. He just wanted to absolutely kill him. And I had to talk him out of doing it, But, yeah, man, I'm lucky. He's lucky that Bryan didn't just rip him a new ass, man.
I got to tell you, I was actually listening that night. You guys did a show called WCW Live, which is just an internet radio talk show. I had nothing to do that night, so I was listening, and apparently there were some people backstage who was trying to hide Conan because they were afraid you guys were to come back and kill him.
Well, he's lucky, man, on that night, because like I said, I talked Bryan out of it. But I mean, look at him. He'd come out there with his pants hanging off of his ass. He would do that stupid spot where he'd roll the guy in and do the flip, the forward roll, and the clothesline. I mean, the guy. I don't know how he got any airtime other than kissing Nash's ass and whatever he did, man. But he's talking about a guy that was never over, and just hating the fact that we were getting over. That's pretty much what it was.
So you think it was just jealousy on his part?
Well, I mean, that I don't know what else it could be. I mean, he would never, you notice he never worked us in a match. If you notice that, he never did. He would put, he'd put Hoovy and Ray and those other guys in there, but he wouldn't do it. So.
All right. Well, we got a couple more questions. We promised that we would ask a few questions from the forums. You might have time for just a few more questions for us?
Yeah, go for it.
All righty. Here's probably a basic question for you. How about your favorite opponent? This comes from our forum member named Cloud.
Oh, man, favorite opponent. Oh, wow. I really enjoyed working with Ming.
Ming?
Yeah.
So that's surprising. He's known as being a tough son of a gun.
Oh, yeah. we beat the shit out of each other. But man, it was
Probably fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was always a stiff worker, so I'd have to say him. I'm sure there are others, but yeah, I really like working with him, and he's a great guy too.
We have a new forum member who just asked us a question, came on actually specifically to ask you this question. What do you think of the recent put down of tag team wrestling, and what do you attribute to it?
Oh man, you know what? I don't follow the business. I mean, I can't think of the last time I watched Monday Night Raw or any of them. What I follow is basically if I'm on the internet or something, you know, following it that way. I don't know. I think they've gotten away. And even when I was in New York, it always seemed like they would put together tag teams of they just throw guys together, and then a week later they'd have the belts on them and they weren't over or anything. Whereas at least in WCW they would have you work for the belt, and then when you got it, it would mean something. Whereas in New York it didn't mean anything. I mean, anybody could have the tag belts. So I don't know. I think it's been a process of where they've slowly gotten away from it. But you remember, I mean, the only tag team that I thought was really over and good was like the Hardy Boys.
Right. Yeah.
And then of course, the APA, when that was real big, that got over real well.
Now, how do you?
Very few.
A lot of your critics actually said that you guys borrowed a lot from the APA with the whole, breaking necks and cashing checks.
No,
nothing.
Actually, we got the breaking necks, cashing checks from Stevie Ray of Harlem Heat.
I love Stevie.
He suggested, hey man, you should say this, So we did. Had nothing to do. There people say, oh, you guys sort of like the Road Warriors and this and that and whatever. But we were our own deal.
Is that a match you would have liked to have, you versus the APA? Because that's another one you picked that one. It's like, hey, that's a really good one.
That would have been a good one. Yep. Like I said, it was set up to fail. If you look at all the people that they brought in from WCW, that was his goal, was to bring them in and crush them, and that's what he did.
You think that's what you think he actually did that? Because I think it was.
Oh man, we kicked his ass for about a year and a half every year. I mean, every night for, like I said, a year and a half. I mean, hell yeah. You know he's got to be hating us. Eric was just parading around, man. I mean, every Monday night it was slaughter, man. They didn't have a chance.
Do you think there was you think we'll ever get to, right now, like they keep canceling the Starrcade DVD and things, and then they keep praising ECW, and they keep almost, if you were a new fan of the business, you'd almost think that ECW was bigger than WCW based on the way that it's presented. Do you think that that's done intentionally?
Could be. Could be. Like I said, I don't really watch the ECW product. I haven't. I mean, I know they're on Sci-Fi. Is that still the deal?
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? Like I said, Vince. He always hated Turner, and he always hated TBS and the whole thing. So, I'm sure he still carries a grudge.
Alrighty, 2 more questions for you. The last one from the forums comes from our forum member DJ Dub, a loyal member, and he mentions that your Classic Superstars series with the WWE actually is one of the most popular ones that they've released in a long time. And what do you attribute that to?
Are you talking about the new action figure?
Yes, sir.
You know what? It is real popular. I've had so many people. The last probably 6 or 8 months or so since it's been out. Not even that long. I'd say probably midsummer up till now. I've been doing some appearances and stuff, and man, everybody's got them. I just think the way they got it set up with these, with the goggles and the whole look, man, it's a cool looking action figure. So, just I think the design of it, and hey, it's a good looking doll. Looks like me. What can I say?
And the last question kind of is going to be kind of a downer. And you mentioned you're kind of surprised that Raven's still around and kicking, and unfortunately Bryan's not. But having been in the business as long as you have, one of the things that really ticked me off was last year's coverage of the way the media presented the Chris Benoit thing. It was kind of like they didn't want to hear anything. It was going to be because he was a wrestler who was on some kind of enhancement, and that's it. There was no chance he was just a freaking nutcase. There was no chance that he just, may have snapped. It was all because he was a wrestler who was on drugs. As you being the guy that you are, and having had the physique that you had, and being exposed to all the guys that you've seen, what did you think seeing the media cover it the way that they did?
With Benoit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, being in this business, man, you have to listen to that, and, now being in the real world and having to answer the questions and being associated with it and stuff, it was rough as far as that goes. As far as what why. If you think about the media, the way they do it now, I mean, if Nancy Grace gets on something, she stays on it for a while. I think it's just all about ratings and those kind of things, man. It's crazy, but if somebody else was to pass, they'd be all over that too.
She sinks her teeth and she's on this Casey Anthony thing, and she won't let it go.
Exactly. So that's that has a lot.
Were you ever asked to appear on one of those shows?
No, I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have done it, especially not with the Bryan situation,
Yeah.
Other than to speak up for him, Bryan, when he passed away, he choked in his sleep.
Yeah.
And Bryan had a lot of issues with his throat. And a lot of people don't know a lot about that, but I travel with the guy, so I know. He always had like a swallowing and a choke type problem, and he did choke in his sleep. So the media's going to, and the media and the people or whatever, they're going to believe what they want to believe, and that's unfortunate.
Alrighty, well, I got to tell you, once again, I had no idea what to expect coming into the interview. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're a straight shooter, which is, I think, what everybody really wants to hear in this business. And
hey, man, not a problem.
We appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to this book. When it comes out, would you come back on with us and help us promote it and help us get the word out for you?
Absolutely. Hey, I'm here in Scottsdale, so you can get in touch with me anytime.
Alrighty, well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Bryan Clark here on the Interactive Interview, and stay tuned for more here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. All right, sir, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate your time.
Okay.
Great interview. Can I ask you one last thing before I let you go? Would you mind giving us a liner, basically just saying this is Bryan Clark and you're in the Epicenter?
Sure.
All right. And you having the gimmick that you probably know what an Epicenter is. A lot of the guests don't know that, so that's good. All right. I'll count you down, and you can go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Bryan Clark, and we're all about breaking necks and cashing checks right here in the Epicenter.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.